Welcome to day one of liquidating my Lofty portfolio. Oh, what's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catchpolia sitting on the couch making some money investing in fractional real estate online, as usual. A couple of things, if you watched my video yesterday, I did mention I'm just going to start pulling money off of Lofty. I think that there's just finally been enough issues that make it seem like I still believe you can make money on there, but I think that for me, it's not a great return on my time, and it's not a great risk adjusted return, right? The risks have just become more and more apparent. They've been adding, they're on top of each other. Um, I think some of the behavior of other, owners in the assets are just sort of creating more and more of that, and so it's getting to a point where it just doesn't make sense for me to keep doing this. So I'm going to slowly liquidate my portfolio. It's going to take a long time. I don't have a whole bunch of money in here, right? And it says 46 or 47,000. It's really not. How they do their gorilla math is worse than mine. It's probably like 43,000 or something. And most of it is tied up in properties that I was hoping to eventually get to a real world sale. Some of that money seems like it's going to get hijacked and take even longer. But so anyway, I'm going to sort of go, share how this goes, but a couple other things. One, I'm going to just today go over just so they're all in one place, just all the problem, all the different reasons. Because a lot of people reached out to me and were like, "Really? Are you actually going to stop?" And despite all of the complaining I've done about Lofty, it still came as a surprise to some people that I'm planning to liquidate my portfolio. Now, yeah, it might take me. I mean, some of these will be trapped in here forever, right? These few tokens. We'll talk about that in a little while. Um, but yeah, so I just wanted to like just get the whole thought process out there, put it all in one place, because I know I've made a bunch of different complaints at a bunch of different times, um, and then sort of talk about what my approach is going to be and whatnot. But also, before I get into that, I wanted to ask: is anybody using this prop base platform? Somebody in the Discord mentioned it today. It's one I'm going to dig into, see if I can find out anything about. It's supposed to be another tokenized fractional real estate platform. Just because I'm trying to get my money off Lofty, I'm not giving up on fractional real estate by any means. I'll still invest in Mogul, still have some money in Ground Floor, all the other ones. And that reminds me, please like and subscribe. In the description to this video, I will have links to all the places where I currently invest in fractional real estate online. Please do your own due diligence on those platforms. As you can see, my mind changes about platforms, as I get more info and I'm learning, and that's what my whole goal is here with this channel. So don't just buy something because I do. Make sure you really understand what you're getting into, to the extent that you can, and your level of risk tolerance and whatnot. Also, in the description of this video, there is the Fractional Real Estate Investors Discord. You are welcome to join that. We talk about all different platforms. You are still welcome to come in there and talk about Lofty. I'm sure I'm still going to be in Lofty's Discord for a little while as I'm trying to unwind some of my positions. Um, but yeah, if you know anything about this one, jump in the Discord or jump in the comments and share your experience. I had never heard of it until today, so let me know what you think. That is it for that. So okay, really, in no particular order, but I guess we're kind of starting globally. So you've one complaint that you've heard me talk about Lofty all the time is they're not trying to bring good deals to the platform. And I actually saw a message from Jerry, the founder, today, which sort of just, and he said similar things before, and maybe I just never really took him to mean exactly what he said. But he said, no, I'm not trying to find good investments. I want to tokenize everything. I hope at some point everything is on Lofty. Well, that's definitely not what NASDAQ does, right? Like, I can't buy into my neighborhood plumbing business or hair salon on the NASDAQ, right? Like, this is a curated, so I mean, it makes it very much not the promise of what they've told us, right? Like, it's not, they're not picking deals or, and I mean, for a while I've realized they're not trying to get good deals. I thought they didn't really I didn't realize how intentional of a decision that was, right? I've been thinking that maybe if they started to understand what a good deal looks like, because I don't believe they have any idea what good real estate investment properties look like. I thought if they, if they started to learn that maybe they'd be a little bit more picky, but I think they've made it very clear that that's not their intention at all. They're also extremely limited in screening operators. I mean, they do a background check for co-owners, and that's basically it, right? And these are people who are, meant to be controlling expensive assets that we're putting money into. And so that's, there's a lot of this counterparty risk that is not being mitigated at all. And then they're not, if you look at, and this really hit me talking about this Odom property and looking at the operating agreement, there are virtually no limits on what the DAOs are able to do, right? So they're saying this is a real estate investment platform, but as soon as, the co-owners take charge of this DAO that's listed on here, they can do whatever they want to. I mean, as far as, it's basically their position is anything that's legal. And they don't have a standard for like if you're going to be on this platform, when I've mentioned it lots of times, I think it should be, one property, one DAO, FF&E, cash and cash equivalents. That's it, right? And then when you sell that asset, you should get your cash. Realizing that people want to hold on to your cash after you sell an asset was really the last straw for me. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that a big part of my strategy has been to buy discounted tokens, push for sales, and then get that cash back from the real world value of the property, right? Virtually every DAO is priced at a point where if you sell the real estate, you're going to make more money than if you hold the property or hold the DAO, right? And it's because of it's a clearly a market failure, right? When there's that significant arbitrage opportunities all over the place. Um, but if I can't operate that plan and reasonably expect to get my cash back in each instance, I mean, that was really the last strategy left that I think makes a lot of sense on Lofty. When we get to the end, I will try to remember to tell you, like, I think there are some places where some I think Lofty makes sense to operate for a few people. I'll just go do it now and then I'll jump back into my list. So I think yes, if you're a co-owner and you're someone like Earl or Alec who's managing multiple properties and bringing properties to the platform, and you're a mover and a shaker and very entrepreneurial, I think that there's I think there's a lot of opportunity for you, right? But if you're just a pure investor, paying attention, voting when votes come up, but doing not much more than that, uh, I think it's just really tough to argue that you're going to get the best risk adjusted returns on here versus anywhere else that I'm putting my money currently, right? And that's what it really has come down to is that the ability of the platform to just trap your cash is in a way that, the promise was some liquidity, right? And yes, I can sell the tokens and get some fraction of what that property is actually worth in real life, but it is, it's problematic for me. So I think, if that's you, or if you're using the platform for business development, right, to spread your management, get more management clients and to, have a little bit more, exert some control over the entities that you're managing, I think there's some benefit there. I really think there's a ton of opportunity to be a counterparty to DAOs, like either lending to DAOs, buying properties from DAOs, all sorts of things like that. I think there's opportunities. But yeah, as just a pure investor on a platform, it just like, especially, okay, if they say, I'm going to bring every property in the world on here, right? Which is, I mean, if you look at a cross section of what they have, they're, on average, yeah, they're not good deals, right? It's not like Mogul, where on average you've got a deal that is a good investment property. And so I'm having to spend a ton of time looking, I do due diligence on every property that they launch and really have very rarely found anything that's worth buying at the price that it gets launched at. Um, so anyway, the next thing, there's this has been my complaint since day one is this very limited historical data, right? Like I can't tell what the rental yield was last month or the month before. I can't, all I'm getting is sometimes I can actually open the documents and find, financials, but even that is very tough. Yes, now I can get this data on Lofty Assist, but I shouldn't have to use a third party. The fact that they don't put enough value in giving me data on an investment I'm trying to make on a platform that is supposed to be the marketplace for that. I mean, that, all of this stuff, I mean, you can tell I've just sort of gotten frustrated. I feel like if you're going to say, I mean, everything on their website talks about investing in fractional real estate, right? Not just like buying and selling fractional real estate. They're talking about investing. They're talking about being the NASDAQ, but they're not, that promise is just not coming through, right? Um, the fact that they annualize the 1 month, to give you your rental yield is just the most ridiculous thing to do. Again, you can get now better data on Lofty Assist, but the fact that they don't care enough to provide that's not a priority. I mean, it bothered me early on. I bugged them about it a bunch. It seems like they just have their hands full. But I mean, like now, it's been over a year that I've been on the platform, and there's been no real move to change that, right? Where one guy running another website was able to spin it up. Sorry, I just froze there. Yeah, but one guy makes his own website, can provide that data for us in a matter of days, from when he started to do it. Like it just makes you realize like that this is not a priority for them. We're like, which again means that it's not a priority for them that we actually get good investments, right? Because how are you going to make good investment decisions without good data? One thing that's always bothered me is okay, this really questionable structure that they do for co-ownership with the debt, where they basically do a subject to transaction to the DAO, right? They just sold it to the DAO, but the original borrower, the co-owner, is making the payments. Um, that's it's always I've worried about it. You worry, okay, does that co-owner, can they make the mortgage payments? There seems to be no checking on their finances and to see, okay, can't whether or not they can. At least they do tell you a little bit about, okay, maybe there's going to be some due on sale clause risk. But anyway, that whole structure really creates a situation where you get these fake high yields. You get a high yield for a short period of time. It's a very fragile yield that depends entirely on that third party making that payment. We've seen that fail several times now. And it also is a yield that disappears over time as you get diluted. And then, the DAOs have a very difficult time using debt otherwise, right? Like there's people are jumping through hoops to get other types of financing for these DAOs. Where like, if you're on other platforms like Arrived or Mogul, they've figured out a way that they can use debt in a normal way with a regular, how you would expect with a typical real estate investment using a mortgage, right? And so the fact that there's not a solution, there's a lot of people that said, oh, there are lenders that will do it. Well, so far it doesn't seem like there's lenders that will do it in a way that I'm very comfortable with. And again, I'm very risk averse, right? There's no reason, if you're just really trying to spin up a very small amount of money to something bigger, maybe, taking all these kinds of risks makes sense for you. But as far as like, from what I consider a good risk adjusted return, especially return on time as well, it just doesn't make sense. The government governance process is just terrible, right? Like trying to make decisions with the other co-owners. The only real tool that we have is email and a Discord. Hardly anybody's in the Discord in a lot of the DAOs, and the email we're limited to us sending something to Lofty and then blasting it out to the group. There's not really much room for back and forth there. I mean, like honestly, I think I'd rather be running this with all the other DAO members with a list serve for each one. Do you guys remember what that is? Like, where it's basically just like, we used to do this where you would just email back and forth and it would go out to everybody, right? Like, it seems like that would be a better solution than what we currently have. And there's been, over there, we're going to move some of this decision making onto the platform. It's been being talked about long before I got here and is still not happening. So we've seen just like this particular property is one of the reasons I have Odom up. It's this sale has taken forever because the process of actually making decisions has been tough. Yeah, completely unrelated, but the next thing, extremely high cost of fees and other costs because they roll in, they're not counting it as their fee, it's the liquidity pool fee, but it's the thing that makes their platform actually halfway usable, right? It makes it so you can get that instant sale is because it's there. So it's really a cost of doing business on the platform. And then I really think it's ridiculous to have the operating reserve pulled in there too. But regardless, if you buy something with a market order and you sell it with a market order, before you even break even, you have to have a higher than a 14% gain. Um, your fees and all that don't add up to 14%, but because on the sales side, the way math works, you're paying fees on a higher price than your initial investment. You have to have over a 14% gain. If you question that, I can show you the math. I know every time I say that, people don't think it's true. Those people are making trades and losing money, I'm sure. There is extremely limited liquidity, right? Like part of the promise here is like, oh, instantly buy and sell. Well, okay, yes, I can instantly sell, but if I want to sell any sort of volume, I'm getting, at 50% value, right? Because of slippage, unless I happen to find somebody else who's willing to put up a limit order on whatever I'm doing. So yes, there is some liquidity. I mean, we're going to see as I try to move out of all of my positions on this portfolio, how limited the liquidity really is, right? Like, because I'm going to try to not lose money, but also, not leave it in here too long. So if it's, I will sell at a loss on some of them, I'm sure, to just finally move out of them because, if they're stuck there too long. But overall, I'm going to just try to go through the motions of like, okay, sell, let the market come back, sell, let the market come back, which is what you kind of have to do because any individual that holds even a small portion of a Dow can move the market. Um, One of the things that just drove me crazy is, the inaccurate tax forms that we got and the fact that a whole bunch of us had to complain about it for a while before they even checked with their CPA about it. And then, oh, yep, okay, they are wrong. We don't have the basis in there properly, but we're not going to fix them, right? So they didn't send out corrected ones. They acknowledged the ones we have are not right, right? Our basis isn't accurate. This is actually the first year in my life that I didn't file taxes on time. And it's because I was waiting to hear, okay, what's the real answer with our tax forms? Um, and then we don't even get corrected tax forms once they realize that, oh, yes, they are not accurate. So, uh, that was extremely aggravating early on. Sounds like that's going to be fixed for next year. Uh, how are they addressing, the fact that, well, how are they fixing it, adjusting for the fact that they put out bad tax forms last year is going to be really interesting to see. And then in general, that leads me to like not resolving known issues, right? Like, so the universal lending DAO, it's coming up on almost a year now since, it's been 8 months at least since that was initially brought to light that, okay, there's a problem there. Jerry knew about it as early as February, at least that I saw in the Discord. He said, okay, we did an internal audit, but he doesn't know, what it says. Um, Last time I chatted with him online about it, he said, well, there was, somebody left the company and we're waiting for them to help us out. Which is not an answer when I have money tied up in an entity that I believe that there has been some faulty accounting and some things done wrong. The only reason I invested in it is because it was claiming to have a yield significantly higher than it actually was because they were paying out principal and calling it yield. Sounds an awful lot like a Ponzi scheme. Of course, I don't believe they had that intent, but the longer they sit on it and don't fix it, the more it seems like, well, maybe that was what it is. I'm still, again, I don't really believe this is one of the things I spent a lot of time going back and forth about like, is it that they're, is it incompetence or is it actually malevolence, right? Are they just trying to, uh, I don't know. I really, that's one like to sit on a problem like that where like you definitely did something wrong and you're just letting investors just deal with it for months without, and he said, okay, well, we're either going to do A or B. Maybe we'll make up some, maybe we'll pay something, maybe we won't once, but like to just let us sit here in this, liquid asset, which now is selling for significantly less than it was, when they were pumping out fake yields. Like it's just like it's so unacceptable. And I just had accepted that as a loss because I'm doing well with everything else. And so, okay, well, I kept believing that maybe they were going to address some of this stuff, right? The referral program, uh, you know, everywhere. Get $50 when your friends invest, right? Like you see this in a whole bunch of different spots. This hasn't worked for at least 8 months and they don't take it down, right? Like And they still have like their little refer and earn section. When you click on this, does it say it's not working? Doesn't say anything there. Like, how hard would it be to just put a message all over the site that says, "Hey, we this is not actually working," right? Like, I mean, that sort of thing that they just sit on it, let it fester. It's just completely unacceptable from like a customer point of view. And honestly, like all of this stuff, I've just been sort of ignoring and letting it pile up because I really thought I can still make good returns on the platform. I honestly believed they wanted to fix this stuff, but the longer it festers, the more it makes me doubt it, right? And so, okay, there's some properties that every single month the payout's wrong, and someone in the Discord, and everybody who's in the Discord regularly knows who it is, has to go and tell them, okay, we're not getting the right payout, you got to fix it. The fact that you have like this recurring problem with payouts, and then some of the other individual lending DAOs have had these problems, like the fact that they just like let those continue to exist. I can't imagine running my business in a way where a customer has identified a problem to me and I let even weeks go by without addressing it, right? Versus like, okay, months or maybe years for some of this stuff. Oh, I missed the, okay, getting tokens stuck in the liquidity pools. Um, I realize this is probably a more difficult technical issue. When I am trying to get off this platform, these three tokens are stuck. This token is stuck. This token is stuck. There's going to be three out of this unless something changes drastically. Um, there's going to be a couple in some of the others. This token is stuck. It, like that there's not some solution for that when again this has been a known problem for quite a while. um and they're like, well, okay, just keep it in there until the thing is spun down or until things change, right? Like, it's just not a good customer experience when, like, okay, no, let me just pay something, or let me just give those up and get paid something, right? I mean, it seems like uh it's mind-blowing that there's not a solution to that. The one that's been driving me crazy lately, that the third party appraisals that they use are just like, they're not, they're using ones that in my business we would just think are completely unacceptable as far as like, not identifying the right client, not identifying the right, intended use of the appraisal, having assumptions in there that have nothing to do with reality, like all those sorts of things. They acknowledged months ago that, okay, we realize that's an issue. Maybe we can fix it. These are the things, like, I mean, I had that discussion. I think it's really clear what the right answer is. And yet we just continually get ones that don't line up with that. Uh, in general, just really poor communications, about very major problems. So, obviously, I didn't even mention the Yom stuff. um, Having a basically a rogue operator, whether or not it was, again, maybe it's incompetence, maybe it's malevolence, who knows, but somebody that was able to take over several of the DAOs, run them in a manner, with zero transparency to the other investors. Lots of accusations about criminal things happening, whether or not those are true, I don't know, but we just got this message that, like, well, we're going to do something about it. If you want us to do something, we can't tell you what that something is. Like, I mean, like just the communication and optics around that were terrible. It led to a bunch of people wanting to wait and see what Lofty was going to do instead of actually just like letting the DAOs handle this on their own. That mess is getting slowly, working itself out. A few of them have been resolved. But I mean, there's several more. And I mean, that's just one of several issues, right? Like, the communications that we get are never great. If you weren't in the Discord, you didn't hear about that at all, or on one of those town hall calls, right? Where like, I, I'm just shocked we don't get an email as investors in some of these assets that say, hey, we're planning to do some sort of legal thing here. We think that, like the fact that we don't get any sort of heads up or communication or after the fact communication, that's mind blowing to me, right? I don't know. And then there's other ones as well, like, which just really led to realizing that, like, how much we're at risk from the co-owners and managers. And like, yes, fraud can happen in any type of uh, environment where there's real estate, where there's money involved. But the fact that the, I think the way that the DAOs are managed, the way the platform's managed, the way communication is managed, it is set up perfectly for grifters to come in and take advantage of it. And I think that we've obviously seen it. I think that there's been several rounds of people taking advantage of lofty investors, either by dumping properties onto the platform that should have never been on there, hiding certain things. To Lofty's credit, they did just recently win a lawsuit about one case where there was, not a lead disclosure. Yeah, obviously, I think that was a very obvious one. I'd love to see there to be, you know, probably 17 more examples of that. And then I'd feel like, okay, they really do care and are looking out for these major problems. And oh, these are the ways that we're going to fix these issues in the future. But it doesn't, it really is just like, okay, guys, you saw that happen. Make sure you don't let it happen again is the approach that they have towards the DAOs, right? Like they're like, okay, this is our system, but you guys are responsible for figuring out. I think I've made this comment before, like, but we are both the customer and the product here, right? Like we're buying investments on the Nasdaq of real estate, but oh, by the way, it only works if you work it, right? You have to be the one that runs that investment. For some people who are more entrepreneurial and want to be living in this space every day, yeah, I think that there's a lot of opportunity. For the vast majority of real estate investors who are looking for something that resembles real estate investing, but just a small piece, this is not it, right? Like it's not even close. And that's what really has gotten me to the point where I'm like, I want to invest in platforms where my knowledge of real estate gives me an upper hand in getting a good deal, right? And I can't, I can do that to a certain extent here, but for the most part, because of all these other things clouding the water, what I'm getting is not a real estate investment, right? I'm investing in a company that started with a piece of real estate, but can do whatever it feels like from that point forward. And it seems like including selling that piece of real estate and then taking my cash elsewhere as long as everybody agrees, which seems like an absolutely absurd answer as far as like what's allowed to be done when it's being sold as this is a fractional real estate investment. It's not being sold as this is you're investing in a real estate fund. You're investing in, so the fact that the platform itself allows it and the operating agreements, like that they don't have standards as far as what has to be in their operating agreements in order for them to list on the platform, is just absolutely ridiculous. Like if you're not, I think it's fine if you want to do that, but don't tell me I'm buying real estate, right? I mean, that's the difference, right? Don't say you're getting a piece of fractional real estate and you're just getting rents here, because I mean, who knows what I'm getting depending on which DAO it is. And then the fact they just seem to have like a complete lack of accountability. Anytime that a issue does come up, even if they acknowledge there's a problem, we almost always just get like some explanation like, oh, this is this we did it because of this, or in hindsight that was right, but we should have done something different, but that we had this reasoning. And like, okay, that's fine, but acknowledge that you actually did something wrong and tell me how we're going to make sure it never happens again, and maybe throw in an apology for doing something wrong. Like that's how I treat my customers. And so a lot of this stuff, it's just kind of built up over time, right? Like still, when I see these incredibly cheap deals, I'm tempted to buy. But the real last straw for me was like, okay, this is a cheap deal that I bought. It's the Odom one, right? It's a cheap deal I bought. We're getting it sold. It's taking us forever to get sold, but it seems like we're finally going to get there. And then maybe my cash is getting hijacked, right? And it's like, okay, if we can do that, then it's just a whole new risk, right? Like it's this the risk that my other DAO members are going to do something that's just completely different from what I thought that I'm buying into. I thought I'm buying a piece of real estate, so when we sell that real estate, I should get some cash, right? Um, Now, obviously, I knew that that wasn't the case, like because I know we're actually buying an entity that's buying real estate. but realizing that there's, more and more realizing that there's absolutely no limitation on what the DAOs can do, what's allowed as far as being, put on the platform as long as it's legal. It's just no longer a real estate investment. I mean, some of the properties still are for now, but you don't know that they're going to stay that way, right? I mean, more than one that has had a recent sale, there's proposals of what we're going to do with that cash, and it's not distributed to the owners, right? And so it just makes it so I can't treat this as if I'm making a real estate investment. And I'm a real estate investor. That's what I buy. Is there some, and I do want to actually address this one thing. One of the people in the Discord, Tim, mentioned, well, yeah, but what I can do is just, bet on the operator, right? Kind of like I talked about in, I think yesterday's or the day before's video, where I was talking about syndications and funds, and I think it was the day before. And like, so in those, you're really just making a bet that the operator knows what they're doing. You can't even really do that here because the operator could get removed with a vote, right? And that we've seen that happen. We've seen co-owners get forced out. We've definitely seen people vote to put in a PM that did a horrible job, right? And so I can't even just say, well, I might not have great real estate here, but I'm going to have to pick ones that have a great operator. The only thing that you can really do is try to pick, okay, I know these four or five other investors, we're going to invest in this DAO together, and then we have some control. And I think that that strategy can work if you really are, doing the networking on the platform and a little bit of colluding, and not in a nefarious sense, but working together there, and then also counting on those people staying in it, right? Because I've had some DAOs that had other bright investors in there, and I felt like we were moving in the right direction. Some of them just get fed up and leave, or they need that cash for something else, and all of a sudden they were replaced by these yahoos that had no idea what they should be doing, right? So it's not a platform where I can bet on the real estate because that can be changed, and there's with absolutely no limitation and no guarantee that I get my cash back. It's not a platform where I can bet on the operator for the same reason. And you can't really count on your co-owners not to get duped by a fast-talking PM that's just like, oh, I've got the capital and I've got solutions to all your problems. Let me just take that asset that was working perfectly fine and take it over. Not that that ever happened on here, right? Like, not that we haven't seen that a few times. And then somebody else is stuck fixing the mess. Um, like, so okay, if I can't bet on the real estate, I can't just pick an operator. Maybe I can try to work with other co-owners and have my own little gang of investors that we're all trying to do the same deals. That's as long as that holds up, and and then we continue to have similar interests, where one of the things is where the DAOs have started to interact with each other a lot, lending to each other, buying maybe buying each other's tokens and whatnot. All of a sudden you open the whole system up to having this tremendous numbers of conflicts of interest where people own a little more of one, less of another. um, I mean, there's just all of these things. I think that's really my whole list, right? So that's the reason that I'm working on getting off of the platform. Um, and I'm just gonna follow along, let you see that process, see how much I make or lose along the way. I'm gonna keep doing due diligence videos on all the new stuff that comes up. Because that's what I'm here for, trying to help people. I know plenty of you are staying on here. Um, I did hear that I guess now the number one metric that that Lofty wants to see is how much rent is getting reinvested. I guess that's the best signal to how well the platform is doing. So if you want to let them know that you're unhappy with the way things are, maybe stop reinvesting your rent. I mean, that's apparently taking your money off the platform entirely isn't as good of an indication, like a whole bunch of money leaving the platform isn't as good of an indication as whether or not the rent gets reinvested. Um, but anyway, yeah, obviously I'm super frustrated, right? I feel like there's just so much potential, but it's not what they're trying to do. And so it's just become really apparent that it's not for me. I don't believe that the you know one, the return on time. Like if I had all day every day to mess around with this, and then I moved, 10x, I actually invested a decent amount of money on here, then yeah, maybe I could make great returns. But at the end of the day, that for me, it's way too risky, right? It is because of all the things we just talked about. I mean, it is like orders of magnitude more risky than me just going and buying assets in real life, which I'm capable of doing. In my mind, it's significantly more risky than buying on a lot of the other platforms right now. You know, as much as I've always said I don't want to invest in Arrived, and I don't because I can make better money elsewhere. If I had to choose between the two today to put new money on, I think I'm putting it on Arrived, which is mind blowing to say because it's not. I mean, it is. Their stated returns are just so low, but I think from a risk adjusted basis, um, maybe you're actually better off there. That's mind blowing to say. Anyway, appreciate you guys watching. Feel free to jump in the Discord and tell me where I'm wrong, right? And honestly, like just because I'm working towards taking my money off right now, doesn't mean that's going to be the answer forever. Lofty could change their mind. They could make a big shift. They could realize that, okay, being the marketplace for everything is being the marketplace for nothing, right? Like nobody, I mean, it's so naive to me to think that like you're just going to put every single property on the platform, but then what? Either the sellers put it on the platform and it never sells, or I mean, I just don't even understand that thinking, right? Like, no, 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 we're not trying to pick deals. We're not trying to do good deals. We're a real estate investment platform, but we're not trying to provide good investment opportunities. We're just going to throw everything in there and hope that you guys pick something out. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. If they change that, if they start to address problems quickly and actually seem to like care what investors on the platform are concerned with, then yeah, I might change my mind in the future. But honestly, I'm probably going to be a customer for a very long time because I have these single tokens stuck in there. It's going to take me a while to sell out some of these. Because they're in a, like like Raymond's currently going through an eviction. Well, yeah, I'm not going to sell it right now. It would be silly, right? Like the risk, like, okay, am I going to take a guaranteed loss today selling it? And look, the market price is higher than my cost basis, but this is a huge loss for me if I sell right now, especially because anything more than 10 tokens and I'm tanking the price, right? So I don't know. It is just a ridiculous situation. I really felt like I could work within it and make good returns, but like just a lot of the stuff that's going on lately, like it's just not worth the time to argue with people about what we're doing with stuff. Like every single deal, we shouldn't have 100 options of what we're going to do. It's like it we don't have a great system for making decisions. So the a simple way to solve that would be to limit the types of decisions we're able to make, right? But now we can do whatever we want to, no limitation, and no great way to really hash those out. Okay, we can talk in the Discord, and yeah, we're probably talking to 5% of the people involved in the DAO, or maybe on a good one 30%, right? And maybe it's most of the people that are voting, but that's also problematic, right? Whew, yeah, it's too bad. I really had high. If I think if you go back and watch all my videos, I had really high hopes for this platform. I think that I think something like this could be great. Obviously, it's not the vision that Lofty currently has for it, and I think that instead of continuing to bang my head against the wall, trying to nudge them along and hope they do it, and as get together with other investors and hope that we can do things. I mean, there's people doing all sorts of stuff to really try to save Lofty, and yes, some of them have a little bit of a stake in Lofty at this point, I believe. But I think it's very much uh, a lot more work than the reward that they're currently getting. If, of course, if everything works out perfectly, maybe it works, in the long run. For me, I think it's too easy to make money in the real estate business, investing in properties in real life, to want to deal with this. And like, it's really like, okay, on Mogul, I can actually just get a regular deal. perfectly happy with. Like that's why that's become my platform of choice. Probably most of the money that I take off of here, I'll just move to there. Probably put more on Saul's Lot and put more on. And again, links to all of these in the description of this video. Um, but do your own due diligence, right? Because they could be, I mean, Saul's Lot definitely still has a lot of kinks to work out. They're very new. Mogul is still pretty new. There's a long way to go before I'll put a ton of money on there either. Um, but yeah, I think that's really it for me for today. Until next time, I'm just going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.